Hey all, welcome back to Advanced Vector Portraits. My name is Sharon Millen, and in this lesson we're going to finish off our manipulated portrait by adding a background, frame and last minute modifications. So let's first work on the background. Create a new layer above the BG layer and place a rectangle within which covers the entire artboard. With this selected, I've used the eyedropper tool to sample colours around the portrait to see which colour combination I like the best. I actually like the combination of the pale pink with a blue gradient. I want to add a texture to the background, so I'm going to go into the file with our image trace texture in, wait patiently for it to open, and then copy and paste the texture from that file into my new portrait. I've then resized the texture to fill the background. After failing to come up with a great combination of using the blending modes and our pale pink with a blue gradient background, I've decided to use our trusty recolor artwork options. Now there are plenty of colours being used for your recolor artwork, but moving the linked colours around, I'm settling on a good old pink. You can tell I'm a fan of pink, right? I then return to modifying the colour by putting a shape over the top and adjusting the blending mode to overlay. Let's frame our portrait. I'm wanting a circular frame around our portrait. Create a new layer above your portrait and draw a rectangle. I'm going to first use the ellipse tool to draw an even circle which covers the entire face, just so I know I'm definitely left with a big enough hole for our portrait to show through. Then select both shapes and go to Pathfinder -front to remove the circle from the rectangle. Recolor the fill to white and there we have our frame. Wait a second though, it's covering our wonderful hair, the hair we've spent absolutely ages doing. Okay, let's modify this frame so the tip of the hair is showing through. Create a new layer underneath the portrait and place a duplicate copy of the frame there. Our portrait is now in front of the frame. In the frame above the portrait, draw a shape which covers the hair you want to be made visible, and then use Pathfinder -front to remove it from the original frame. Ta-da! We now have the hair overlapping onto the frame. Go into the layer which contains the texture. I'm wanting to add a circular drop shadow from the frame onto the background. So I'm going to do this by using an inverted transparent radial gradient. Now that our frame and background is sorted, we can go on to tweaking the rest of the portrait. My first tweak is going to use recolor artwork to change the eyes to a nice bold green. I think they stand out a lot better against the pink, don't you? Now because I changed the eye colour, I want to remove the blue from the drop shadow and make it a green drop shadow. I then go and modify the colours of the eyeshadow to pink so it complements the eyes and the hair a lot better. Then I change the background colour entirely to green. I'm a little indecisive now, aren't I? Now to keep to my tradition of adding a mole to my portraits. I do this by filling an ellipse with a transparent radial gradient, duplicating it a couple of times, overlapping the shapes and reducing the opacity slightly. I then move them into a place where I feel I want the most attention, and in this case it's the eyes. My final finishing touches are to add more highlights to the skin. I don't want the skin to be flat, so I add transparent radial gradients filled with the pale skin tone set to blending mode screen around the nose, cheek, forehead, chin and back area. These are then grouped and placed in the skin shading clipping mask group. And then we're done. And then we have our completed manipulated portrait. It's been a big task, but I hope you've picked up some killer tips and tricks along the way to improve your own detailed portraits. Thanks for listening.